Welcome to News Dump. Coming up, I wrote jokes about Bryon Noem's double life, Marjorie Taylor Greene turns on Fox News, Nick Cannon, Microsoft Outlook on Artemis 2, and much more. But first, the data centers that power artificial intelligence have been found to create heat islands, warming the land around them by up to 16 degrees Fahrenheit, and making life hotter for millions of people. Fine, I guess I only need one AI girlfriend. Welcome back. Every day this week, I gave myself an hour on the internet to scroll and see what everyone's talking about, and write jokes. Then for sanity purposes, I log off. This is my late night monologue, except there's zero budget and no one asked for this. But first, since it's the weekend, I'm having a cocktail. Today, I'm drinking a classic old school daiquiri. No frozen nonsense here, just the classic combo of rum, lime, and simple syrup. It was Ernest Hemingway's favorite. Although he liked his without sugar, which explains a few things about him. All right, let's get to the news. A new report this week details the secret life of Kristi Noem's husband, Bryon. He was accused of living a double life as a crossdresser who's obsessed with donning huge fake boobs and talking to fetish models online. And you know what? I don't care about any of that. Live your life, my guy. The hypocrisy and shaming that he's been subjected to from the family values crowd is what gets my goat. Only thing I have to say to Bryon Noem is, hey, you look better than your wife. Slay, King. Images of Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey visiting Disney World have sparked outrage on social media amid the ongoing government shutdown. And I get the bad optics of traveling right now. For one, gay days aren't until June, which means there's only one thing I can think of that he'd be there for. And hear me out. The Hall of Presidents has an animatronic Trump, right? So Lindsey was like, bingo. The Republicans saw their poll numbers and need a Trump that doesn't go full dementia at press conferences. See where I'm going with this? Eagle-eyed observers will note that this is not the first time Lindsey has loaded a male robot into a van. Probably. If I didn't run out of time this week, I was going to Photoshop a picture of Lindsey loading one of those silly sex robots into a free candy van. But oh well. Anyway, this week we also learned that Chilli from 90s R&B girl group TLC donated around $1,000 to the Trump campaign. Chilli, no, don't go chasing waterfalls, especially ones that are sliding out of Trump's diaper. That was bad. All right, I gotta lock in here. Former GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has turned on Fox News, accusing the channel of brainwashing boomers and peddling fake news. Of course, this has always been obvious to the rest of us, but in her defense, she was recently visited by the ghosts of Ronald Reagan, Rush Limbaugh, and Jeffrey Epstein. Oof, what a gnarly bunch. They'd scare anyone straight. A photo of Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt was scrubbed from Getty and AFP photo services this week after the White House complained it was unflattering. It's this photo, by the way, from last Thanksgiving. Please, nobody screenshot this. Now, as a man, I know better than to comment on a woman's physical appearance. I've got my own chin situation, so I probably shouldn't call the kettle black. But between the string tie and the turkey, I can't tell what's happening here. I think this is a teaser for the new West Wing ballroom, specifically the food court. More specifically, the KFC. Ugh, who wears that? All right, it feels like a weird week of news. I gotta kick it into high gear with some of these jokes. Okay, Nick Cannon, host of The Masked Singer and Mariah Carey's baby daddy, called the Democratic Party the party of the KKK and says, I f*** with Trump. America, can we stop listening to the political opinions of D-list celebrities? That's how we got Trump. And at this rate, we're one bad take away from the 2028 frontrunner being Octomom. Hey, a lot of us have always wanted a female president. Gregg Phillips, the Trump administration official in charge of FEMA's Office of Response and Recovery, accused Truth Social of blocking his posts after he claimed to have teleported to a Waffle House 50 miles away. Teleportation, huh? That's a funny way of saying cocaine. It's a news dump public service announcement. The FDA issued a recall on several Gear Island chocolates, an adult novelties company, after they were found to contain undeclared erectile dysfunction medication. The reviews are in. 2 thumbs all the way up. All right, we're back, baby, turning this ship around. There's new research around the information deficit model, which tells us that truth rarely changes a person's behavior. When confronted with evidence that contradicts our beliefs, we're more likely to question the evidence rather than update our views, because our brains prefer stability to change. My take? Shut up! I'll change whenever I goddamn feel like it. Florida man and disgraced Congressman Matt Gaetz has claimed that he was briefed on secret alien breeding programs while in office. He said on a recent podcast that someone from the Army told him captured aliens were being bred with humans abducted from war zones and migrants from caravans to create some hybrid race that could engage in intergalactic communication. I don't believe him. I think it's all in his forehead. And finally, Artemis 2 launched, and it's the first manned lunar flyby in 50 years. During the mission, the astronauts discovered that they have 2 Microsoft Outlooks running and neither work. But it wasn't until they realized they're running on Windows Vista that they screamed, "Get me off of this thing!" All right, time for my finishing thoughts. This is my second week of sitting down, reading the news, and trying to find what's funny about it. And to be honest, this week felt harder. Not because there wasn't enough news, there's always enough news. It was more like some of it just didn't feel worth laughing at. Tiger Woods got his 4th DUI this week. I didn't do a joke on it, not because I'm above it. Clearly I'm not, but because somewhere between the setup and the punchline, I kept thinking about the people he was on the road with. That's just a guy with a disease and a car, which didn't sit right. Also, Pam Bondi got fired over how she handled the Epstein files. I didn't do a joke on that either, partly because she's a terrible person and everyone feels like they've moved on. And partly because there's nothing funny about watching institutions fail so completely that the punchline is just reality. But maybe I'll work on one for next week. This is the part where I get insufferable about comedy, so bear with me. I've been thinking about what makes something worth laughing at, and the answer is stupidity. Not cruelty and not suffering. Because sometimes stupidity means that nobody's really in control. And if nobody's really in control, then the whole thing is a cosmic joke and we're all the butt of it. That I can work with. What I'm hesitant to try and make funny is harm. Real specific harm to real specific people. A drunk driver on a public road. Files that detail the gory sex crimes that we were never going to see the light of day of anyway. Those aren't jokes, those are just things that are part of our world. Now, is sitting in a room dissecting why some news stories are funnier than others the most self-important thing a person can do? Obviously, yes. This is the part of the show that's a total circle jerk, and thank you for making it to the end. But here's the thing about circle jerks. At least everyone in it is having a good time. Does this make me more optimistic? No, but it makes my inclination towards cynicism livable. And some weeks that's enough. So as far as jokes go, better luck next week. That's what I got. Have any better one-liners than the ones I came up with? Leave them in the comments. Also, you should like and subscribe. But for now, it's time for me to log off. Cheers. Bye.